Whatever you can imagine, I can create.
Let's party.
Nice choice.
I just want to.
Blue Beetle, the latest DC movie after the disaster that was The Flash, which, oh boy, DC really needed a win. There's only one more DC movie in the works before James Gunn's reset, so we'll see. Gunn allegedly refrained from interfering much with this film, so it settled in nicely in with the current DCU. Although it is reported it's not being planned to be part of Gunn's rebooted universe, which I'll explain my thoughts on that a bit later, but first, I really need to talk about this movie in general. Blue Beetle makes history as the DCU's first Hispanic superhero, and the Spanish culture is lovely dripped throughout the film. I feel I can thank the director, Angel Manuel Soto, for that. I hope I pronounced that correctly, as a lot of his works are Hispanic focused. The Hispanic cast is also a very important touch to this film, especially to the themes of the movie. The film follows recent graduate Jaime Reyes returning to his family's home in a poor barrio outside the fictional place called Palmera City. Unable to get a job, he seeks the assistance of the big corporate tech business in town and accidentally comes across a blue scarab, which is some sort of alien doomsday weaponized suit that merges with him. It really isn't explained all that well, turning him into the Blue Beetle. Of course, the business doesn't take lightly to Jaime taking the scarab and seeks to track him down. It's pretty standard origin story stuff, and it leaves a lot open to be explored in sequels, and it stays pretty standard throughout most of the film. Thankfully, the standout cast brings some much needed charm and personality. Zolo Maridueña as Jaime brings a lot of heart and youthful energy to the character. Honestly, he's just a great choice for Blue Beetle as a whole. I thought he did fantastic. His family, most notably his sister played by Belissa Escobedo and his nana played by Adriana Barraza, contribute a lot to his sense of family and bring a lot of genuine humor and surprise backstory to the group. I kind of want to see a lot more about Nana's backstory. There's a lot that's just drip fed in there and hints at such a wider background. I want to know her story. There's a lot going on there. There's a surprising ruthlessness to her. His uncle, played by George Lopez, isn't quite as funny as I was hoping the comedian to be, but it is good to see George Lopez being George Lopez. He gets a lot of funny deliveries that don't always hit, but are at least enjoyable. His character could have been a bit more emotional, though, I feel, based on certain events in the film, but overall he's a welcome addition that brings even more Hispanic flair, even if they don't reference the George Lopez show, which I feel would have been incredibly easy. You just throw on the theme song somewhere and that would have been perfect. The love interest Jenny Cord, played by Bruna Marquezine, is just okay. She's fine, but doesn't particularly stand out from everyone else in here, and I think that's just because they didn't really know what to do with her character. She's written a bit blandly, and Bruna is doing her absolute best to bring some quirkiness and some self-respect to this rather bland character, and I feel she does a good enough job, but there's just not enough written for her to do. The villains, though, played by Susan Sarandon as Victoria Cord and Raul Trujillo as Ignacio Carapax, are a lot of fun whenever they are on screen. Honestly, they could have used a lot more screen time. Sarandon knows this character, and it's weird but fun to see her being just a little nasty. I wanted a lot more than what I got, which sadly seems to be a running theme in this movie. I don't know, there's a lot of little nitpicks that had me just not really getting into it. I still enjoyed this film a lot, and I think it's a good film, but certain things are holding it back. Like, this movie has a weird tendency to go from one location to another and then back again for absurd reasons. It felt a little like filler. Just do what you have to at the one location first, besides traveling back to it a scene later. In one location, they travel back and forth 3 times in a row. It's ridiculous. Like, they go from location A to B to A to B to C to B again, and that's all the scenes in a row. It is weird and very noticeable. It's a little ridiculous, but that's at least one issue with the pacing. Everything else is mostly nitpicks though, like not having enough of the Blue Beetle's ship, or exploring the weapons more that his family gets at a certain point later in the movie, or having certain characters on screen, or, and I am extremely sorry about this, but Carapax is a stupid name. I get it's from the comic and it's a play on the word carapace because beetle, but oh my god, they say that name so many times in this film and it's so distracting to me because it's so out of place with everyone else's names and is so stupid. It's just ridiculous. It was so funny and just out of place, just completely took me out of the movie every time someone said Carapax. It doesn't even fit the dude's ethnicity, and ethnicity is a big part of this film. I actually really like how it hints at and explores not just Mexican and Hispanic culture with undocumented immigrants and revolutions, but also Guatemalan culture with a very, very brief look at a Guatemalan war. It definitely should have been explored a lot more, but it is good that it is at least in the movie in the first place. Still, at just over 2 hours, a few more minutes exploring these concepts would have been very welcome. Another missed opportunity would have been some added graphic content. The film is PG-13, but a very, very light one. And there are a couple scenes with some light body horror with the suit, and another instance later on that I feel maybe should have been slowed down or been a bit gory to explore the real fright of what's going on. Even if one of them is played up for laughs, it looked cool. I wanted a closer look. Otherwise, the references in this are a strong point, especially the video game references like Cloud's Buster Sword showing up or a Mortal Kombat line. Although I feel some references held the film back, and it's all to do with the suit itself. To be fair, I'm not actually sure if these are references, but the actions performed with it aren't anything particularly new. We've seen Iron Man fly like the suit, and we've seen Spider-Man use his iron spider legs like the suit's legs. The unique look and the weapons on the Blue Beetle suit are at least new enough, but I feel a little more imagination would have had this standing out a lot more. Which is weird when imaginary weapons not connected to Blue Beetle's suit are a lot cooler looking, like the weapons the family gets. Come on, it's a bizarre detail. Now, the film does have 2 end credit scenes. One teases a sequel and the other is a continued Easter egg. I'm not actually sure if this will get a sequel, sadly. I am completely down for it. I want to see this explored more and more creativity injected into it. This was fun and a welcome change to the DCU as a whole, but James Gunn has stated that he has no plans to incorporate Blue Beetle, so it leaves this in a big limbo as to whether we'll see a sequel and expand on these characters more or not. I think it's worth it, and I think Gunn could really explore Jaime's character a lot more, but who knows at this point. The director has stated that he wants to do 2 more sequels involving the Black Beetle and Ted Cord, and I think that would be very interesting to explore because there's a lot to get into. This was very much a beginning step into the Blue Beetle section of the DCU, so I hope Gunn will take it. I really don't know. The last DCU movie we have before Gunn's complete takeover is Aquaman 2 in December, so I guess we'll see. Overall, Blue Beetle is a much needed breath of fresh air to an otherwise stagnant franchise. It played it a little too safe for my liking and could definitely use with some branching out that I hope is better explored in various sequels if we get them. But otherwise, I think this is very solid, if not a little paint by numbers. Go in with that in mind, and I think you'll enjoy this new superhero a lot, especially if you are Hispanic. Not saying that this movie is just for Hispanics, but there's a lot of call-outs to Hispanic culture that I think people of that descent would really latch onto. Ultimately, Blue Beetle gets a 7 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for another one. There's a lot in here that I wish the film did a bit more. Like when I was talking about the PG-13, I feel like it should have leaned into making that a bit harder. Not exactly R, but I feel like you could have added gore to the body horror segments and slowed it down, showed the real progression, but I feel maybe that would have showed off some bad CGI possibly, and after The Flash, we really don't need any more bad CGI. I do like the Hispanic angle here, and despite not seeing enough of her, I love Susan Sarandon. she's fantastic, and she just has such an iconic voice and iconic look, and she still plays that up here. I just wish we saw her be a little more ruthless. She's very nonchalant about everything in this movie, which kind of brings it down a little bit, but I feel that could have been fixed if she just kind of had a bit more attention on her and what she was doing. And the more I hear about James Gunn taking over the DCU and how it's affecting all these movies and all the other stories coming out of it, like Gal Gadot saying that Gunn told her that she was fine as Wonder Woman, and then Gunn coming out saying that no, that's not true, and it's just a complete mess. At this point, I'm not really happy with how it's going. I'm tentatively okay with Gunn taking over things. I still think it's weird to give that much control over one person. I think it should definitely be a more collaborative effort between the directors, but I don't like how these new films are being introduced, and some of them are good, some of them are kind of meh, but they could deal with some better leadership, like Black Adam. It's weird to introduce these characters and then have Gunn say that he has absolutely no plan to do anything with them whatsoever, even though they've already kind of been established. It's weird. This isn't something like Joker or the Batman, where it's in its own separate universe and can do its own thing and it doesn't really affect everything, but I have no idea. Considering Gunn's taking over everything, I feel like Gunn's new franchise would be its own DC universe, and then the previous would be its own DC universe, Zack Snyderverse. I don't know. I don't care. I think it's confusing, and I don't think it's giving the existing and new movies enough credit. Sure, not all of them are great, but the ones that are generally accepted are still worthy of a look and still worthy of being explored a lot more. Even the ones that are kind of bad, I feel just need new leadership and new direction, but you can still build off of what they already established. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Did you like Blue Beetle? Did you like the comments? Do you want to see a sequel regardless of what Gunn is going to do? What are your thoughts on the Gunn takeover? Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. After that, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a video. And yeah, that's it. Follow my socials down in the corner, or don't if you don't want to, but it would help me out. Have a great day, and if you're not, have a better one. See ya.
I'm just a ghost in your stereo, the fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a